So yeah, so then there was a game, right? There was this narrative, like there's this interesting thing that I never experienced as a designer, because I was always an artist, where as an artist you come to a project, or you might be developing the visuals of a world while the designers are developing the scripting language they will use to make the gameplay and the game. But as a designer, especially on an indie scale, like for a year or two, the characters were boxes, right? Each box had a color, the couch was a box. But there's a point that these boxes start to have personality, and suddenly you're putting meaning into all these things, and I think that's a very special moment that I loved as a designer, that I didn't know it existed. And once that happened, I started to rely more on the prototype to show it to people versus talking about things in an abstract way. So, for example, the wife sitting down, the cube would go into this simple couch that's here. And people would be like, look, I don't get it that she's sitting down. So I would start, crafting. The direction for development was based on what was missing and what I was trying to communicate. So it was a very organic process.
Yeah, I guess it's the difficulty of not having all the assets right from the get-go, right?
But I think having the assets from the get-go would be like, that's, if I had all the assets and I wanted to change something, I would have to redo. Like, imagine a couch takes 2 weeks to do. If suddenly I don't want a couch,
then it's just a waste of time.
Yeah, I mean, you want to stay in the most simple possible version of what it is you're doing until you know the next need, I think. So it stayed like that, and then something started to emerge, the way you move. And I just want to show this prototype because I think it shows kind of how the game was supposed to be, in a way, where... yeah, so there was a lot of camera movement. There was no... The core was there in terms of husband and wife. The narrative itself, it was locked from early on. There was this... Like, I had this clear understanding that you will have to learn about the other... What I found interesting is that you learn about these other characters. You shape... Right, you shape how they behave based on what you know, but at a certain point, things will turn towards you. Like, you've been judging all these characters throughout the game and what they know and their past and what they've done, and at a certain point, the light is going to shine on you and what you've done and what you know and how you deal with that after you've been dealing with the other characters. So the structure kind of came out pretty early. So right, there was a dinner. There was, like, things were different, like design, like there was a soup early on, you had bread, you see here, you could dip into the soup. But then a lot of players wanted to throw the soup at the cup, so I had to remove the soup. There was knives and forks, they wanted to use the forks. The bread was too abstract, like, what is the bread for besides eating? And you could dip it in the sauce.
Eat the cup.
Exactly. Or you could drop objects on the ground, so people would spend hours, like, I'm gonna put 2 glasses of water on the floor, he's gonna trip on them.
Oh wow. Yeah, people were getting really creative. I mean, you give them the tools, they want to get creative, right?
Exactly. So it was a process of just removing. It was removing things, removing elements. Like, for example, if you look here in the bathroom, there was a pregnancy test on the trash bin. So you could learn about the pregnancy through the present or to a pregnancy test. But why have 2 items to do the same task? Why not, right? By removing the trash bin, and then finding, right, and then there would be this richness of, oh, the present also serves to prove you're living the same day because you open knowing what's inside. It helps to know that she's pregnant. I could start to see that the more I remove, the elements that remained became much more rich and meaningful. And so whenever I had a challenge in the narrative that I wanted to solve, I would always look with what I have there. Can I use those things? There were always clocks. You can see there was clocks on every room. I believe the player really needed to know what time it is so they could plan around. Okay, in 3 minutes the cop is coming, in 4 minutes this is happening. Yeah, and the camera was moving all the time. So this was all, like, this is a prototype, like, so I made everything, right? There were no collaborators. This was me on my free time just working on this. And I had this prototype that everyone said was pretty cool and they enjoyed playing, right? I think when you have something that people will play for more than an hour, you're on to something in terms of game design.